Hey friends, it's Laurie. I'm so happy you stopped by. Today I made 2 pieces of fall decor along with a sunflower pumpkin wreath. I used mostly Dollar Tree supplies. I really hope you enjoy them, so let's get busy. To start my wagon, I'm using one of the wooden crates from the Dollar Tree. I'm also using 5 wooden craft sticks, and these came from the Dollar Tree as well. The crate has an open handle on each side, and I want to hide one of them. I placed one craft stick against the end and then marked the size with my pencil. The craft sticks are fairly thin, and I just used my scissors to cut it. And once I was done, I then cut 4 more. To make sure all the edges have a flat surface, I'm just using a piece of sandpaper and giving the ends a little rub. I'm painting the crate and my cut pieces with some forest green and brown acrylic paint. I'm painting 3 of the cut pieces with my brown acrylic paint, and I'm only painting the front and the sides because I'll be attaching them to the crate. For the crate, I'm painting the top and the bottom stripe. I'm painting the inside, one end, and the bottom of the crate. I'm attaching the strips of wood to the other end, so I'll just leave that unpainted. I'm using my green paint to paint the 2 cut pieces and the middle stripe on the crate. There is an indent between the stripes and it's really difficult to paint. So I'm using a brown colored pencil and I'm running it back and forth between the stripes to hide the unfinished wood. To attach the 5 painted pieces of wood to my crate, I'm using my Starbond thick glue. I like to use it because it sets up natural wood super quick, usually within 2 minutes or so. And I do have the company linked below in case you'd like to give it a try. I'm first adding a generous amount on the end of my crate. And now I'm attaching my strips of painted wood, alternating the colors. I'm going to turn my crate into a rustic wagon, and I'm starting by using a piece of sandpaper. I sanded down the 2 sides and the 2 ends along with the bottom, but I didn't sand down the center because it's basically going to be hidden. If you prefer your wagon have a fresh coat of paint, just omit this step. For the wagon's handle, I'm using a 6-inch wooden dowel. I found these in the craft department at the Dollar Tree, and they come in a pack of, I think it's either 10 or 12. To help hold it in place once I slide it through the opening, I'll be using a small piece from my leftover craft sticks. To finish off the end of my handle, I'm using about a 2-inch piece of a Dollar Tree skewer. I painted all 3 pieces brown, just like the wagon, and once again, I used my sandpaper to distress them. To attach my 2 handles together, I'm using some of the liquid adhesive from the Dollar Tree. I placed a dot about a 1/2 inch down from the top and added on my 2nd piece. I let it set up for a couple of hours, and to give the handle a bit more integrity, I'm using a small piece of Dollar Tree jute. To attach it, I first placed a dot of hot glue on the back. I let it cool and then I wrapped the jute around the handle 2 or 3 times. I cut off the excess, added another dot of hot glue on the back, and attached the end. To get the correct angle of my handle, I first placed it through the opening on the end. Now that I'm happy where it is, I'm placing the little wooden tab behind it to help hold it in place. I removed the handle, tipped the tab up, and hot glued it to the bottom. I then added some hot glue in front of the tab and slipped in my handle, pressing it against it. To prevent the handle from moving in the front of my wagon, I added on a couple of dots of the Dollar Tree liquid adhesive. The Dollar Tree is selling packs of these really cute wooden Harvest DIY words. I love working with them because they're different phrases, and I'm using the one that says Welcome Fall. Now, even though it's almost the exact same color, I decided to give mine a coat of this off-white acrylic paint. And I did this to make sure that it had a uniform color. Now that it's dry, I'm using the same brown colored pencil, and I'm sketching around the outside of the letters. After I add it, I'm then just kind of smudging it around with my fingers. It's not going to leave a super dramatic effect, but just enough to complement the outside of the wagon. I'm attaching it by first turning it over, and on the back side I'm adding on some of the Dollar Tree liquid adhesive. I then centered it and attached it onto the side of my wagon. For my wagon's wheels, I'm using 4 of the Dollar Tree Scarecrow hats. They're styrofoam on the inside and wrapped in burlap. To turn them into wheels, I just cut away the brims on the hat. With all 4 of them cut, I'm attaching them to the bottom of the wagon with my hot glue. If you don't want to add these as wheels to your wagon, another option is using the round cut pieces of wood that they sell at the Dollar Tree. Now that your wagon's complete, you can pretty much fill it up with anything you'd like. I'm going to add in some pumpkins, and I'm using a handful of polyfill. I'm adding it into the wagon so it'll fill up some space and I don't have to add in as many pumpkins. I'm adding in 2 of the cream and 2 of the green pumpkins, and you guessed it, I picked these up at the Dollar Tree. They come with clips on the bottom, and I just simply twisted them off. I'll also be adding in a Dollar Tree light orange pumpkin. I added them into the wagon, and I'm not permanently attaching them. This way I can add different things throughout the season. To fill in the spaces between the pumpkins, I'm using some raffia, and I'm just cutting it into short pieces. I gathered a few of the pieces together and then just tucked them between my pumpkins. With the pumpkins and the raffia in place, this cute little wagon is ready for the fall. I wanted to share with you today that I'm participating in a Halloween collab. It's being hosted by my sweet friends Jackie from Crafting in Mimi's World and Ellie at DIY from House to Home. They both have amazing channels that you can check out in the playlist. I'll have it linked below in my description along with my other crafty friends. If you're new to my channel, please consider clicking on that little red subscribe button below, leaving me a thumbs up, and to all my returning friends, you know I'm always so happy to see you. To start my fall rope wreath, I'm using one of the 14-inch wire wreath forms from the Dollar Tree. As the base, I'm using nautical rope from the Dollar Tree, and there are 2 different weights. One is just a little bit thinner than the other, and I actually used both for my wreath. I used 11 packages, but depending on the weight of the rope and how long you cut them. You may need a little more or a little less. I made sure that I used my sharp scissors, and then I cut my pieces at 7 inches. If you're a little bit off here and there, not to worry, because once they're attached to the wreath, you won't even notice. I didn't cut my rope all at once. I cut about a handful and then just cut them as needed. To attach them, I'm placing my first piece around the 2 outer wires. I'm then making sure that the 2 ends match up. I place some hot glue between them and then pinch them together. I'm now placing my next piece beside my first piece of rope around the center and the inside wire, and once again adding some hot glue and then pinching the 2 together. For my third piece, I'm wrapping it around the 2 outside wires, just like my first. I then added on the hot glue and pinched the 2 pieces together. I'm adding on my fourth piece of rope right next to the third. Once again, I'm wrapping it around the inside and the center wires, adding on some hot glue and pinching the 2 together. I continued following the same instructions as I worked my way around the form. This is how your wreath will look after you've added on most of the rope. I have to say it can be a bit monotonous, and you have to be super careful to know where the glue is when you're pinching the rope together so that you don't burn yourself. I was listening to some good music and the wreath worked up pretty quick. In one of my past videos, I used the white cotton nautical rope from the Dollar Tree to make a Christmas wreath. And I made that one the same way I'm making this one. Now that I'm done, you can see that some of the rope has frayed as I was adding it. But that's not a problem because that's exactly what you want to happen. Because a lot of the rope didn't fray, I'm now untwisting and kind of just pushing my fingers in and pulling it apart. By doing this, you're making your wreath nice and full. The hot glue does bind the rope together, but as I'm doing this, I am being fairly gentle. With that complete, I'm going to start adding on some of my layers. I'm using 8 of these floral picks that I already had on hand. You can find similar ones at the Dollar Tree. Just be sure that they're in the fall colors. To get started, I'm attaching my fall picks to the wreath. I'm having the 3 on the bottom and the 3 on the top heading in the same direction. I'll be making a bow for the side of my wreath, so I'm going to leave a bit of an open space. My last 2 picks, they'll be heading upwards. Happy with their placement? I'm attaching them with my hot glue. I'm using some green leaves that I already had on hand, and I'm using 2 different styles and filling in between my picks. As I was adding them, I pretty much tried to mimic what I did on the bottom onto the top. And now, just like the picks, I'm happy with their placement, so I'm using my glue gun to attach them. I'm now adding on my second set of leaves. I have 8 of them. You can always use more or less, and I'm just tucking them in between the picks to fill in those open spaces. And you can see as I'm adding them, I'm once again leaving that open space to accommodate my bow. To be sure that nothing falls off of my wreath, I'm using my glue gun to attach them. To bring in a bright pop of color, I'm using these Dollar Tree fall leaves. I pulled each set from the main stem and then cut them into individual leaves. And now, just like I did with the green leaves, I'm once again tucking them in here and there to fill in the open spaces. The best part about not permanently attaching them as you're placing them is if you're not happy, you can just move them around. Now that I'm done, I once again grabbed my hot glue gun to attach them permanently in place. To make the bow for my wreath, I'm using this 2.5-inch pumpkin and sunflower ribbon, along with a green 2.5-inch burlap ribbon, and these both came from the Dollar Tree. I'll be attaching my bow together using a piece of floral wire. I'm using my bow maker that I picked up on Amazon a while back, and starting with the green burlap ribbon, I'm giving myself one 16-inch tail. I'm then making 4 5-inch loops. I'm then finishing up, adding on another 16-inch tail and cutting them both at an angle. I'm now adding on my sunflower and pumpkin ribbon. Once again, I'm giving myself 2 16-inch tails cut at an angle. Instead of 5-inch loops, I'm making 4 4-inch loops. With my bow complete, I'm now attaching it together with a piece of floral wire. I placed it over the center, pulled tightly, and twisted it on the back. Then to finish up, I just fluffed out the loops. There were 2 short pieces of wire in the back, and I just snipped those off with my clippers. You can definitely use your bow as is. I'm going to give mine a bit more of a finished look by using a short piece of the matching ribbon. I turned it over, added a line of glue, folded in the edge, and I did this on both sides to make the ribbon a little bit thinner. To attach it, I added some hot glue to the front of my bow, placed down the ribbon, wrapped it around tightly, and then attached it in the back with more hot glue. I placed it in the opening on my wreath and then used my glue gun to secure it. I'm adding 4 flowers to my wreath, and I'm using 2 of the yellow and 2 of the orange sunflowers from the Dollar Tree. I'll also be adding 1 of the small pumpkins, and this came from the Dollar Tree as well. With the bow attached, it makes it easier to find the placement of my sunflowers, and I'm placing 2 on the bottom and 2 on the top. Once again, I grabbed my glue gun. What would we do without them? And I attached the sunflowers in place. To finish up, I'm placing the Dollar Tree pumpkin in the center of my wreath, and once again attaching it with my glue gun. This last step is completely optional. I'm adding in some of the fall berry picks. These come from the Dollar Tree, and I separated them into individual pieces. I place them randomly here and there around the wreath, and this just gives it another layer of visual interest. Once I had them all in place, I then used my trusty glue gun and attached them. Now that I'm done, this pretty sunflower and pumpkin rope wreath, it makes the perfect addition to my fall home decor, and it looks amazing hanging on my house. Getting started on my project, I'm using a house from the Dollar Tree. I found this in the craft department and they come in white or black. I'm going to cover the natural wood outline of the house with my white acrylic paint. Painting the house is completely optional. You can always just leave it with the natural wood. The Dollar Tree is selling some really cute fall rub-on transfers, and I'm using the one that says Hello Autumn. They're really easy to use. All you need to do is peel off the backing, and I'm trimming mine to fit inside the house. I peeled off the backing, decided where I wanted to place it, and attached it inside the house. Once in place, you'll need something to rub against the transfer, and I'm just using my Cricut tool. But if you don't have one of these, a craft stick, that will work just as well. Now that it's in place, I'm peeling the transfer away from the house. To help the house stand up on its own, I'm adding a base and I'm using 6 of the tumbling tower blocks from the Dollar Tree. I need to attach them together in groups of 3 and I'm using my Starbond thick glue. It sets natural wood up super quick and I have the company linked below in case you'd like to check it out. I added my glue to the ends of the block, attached them together and they set up in about 2 to 3 minutes. They're now attached and I'm using my white acrylic paint and giving them a coat so that they match the house. I'm setting those aside to dry, and now I'm making the roof for my house, and if you follow me, you know that I love using the Dollar Tree clothespins. I'll be using 8 of them and I'm going to pull them apart. Using my Starbond thick glue, I'm attaching 2 together on the flat ends on the bumpy side. As I'm attaching them, I'm making sure that the 2 ends match up and that there's the little dip in front of them. I now have 8 sets of clothespins attached together. The glue sets up quickly and now I'm attaching 3 together. I'm adding some Starbond glue to the side of my clothespins and attaching them together in a group of 3. Now that I have my 2 sets attached together and my 2 singles, I'm giving all 4 a coat of my golden brown acrylic paint. With all of my pieces dry, I'm using E6000 to attach them to the house. I added a generous amount on the top, then placed down my roof pieces, making sure that the 2 flat ends met at the peak. To add the front side pieces, I placed down more E6000. I placed the flat end against the top. I added on some more E6000. I then attached my last piece with the flat end overlapping on the top. To give my house stability, I'm centering 2 of the white bars, one against the front and one against the back, using my E6000. To embellish my house, I'm using a small cluster of 3 fall leaves, and I had these on hand. I added some hot glue to the inside corner of my house and attached them. For my pumpkin accents, I'm using 2 of these mini farmhouse pumpkins from the Dollar Tree. I used my hot glue gun and attached both. For my final accent, I'm using some of the thin buffalo check ribbon from the Dollar Tree. And I made a simple bow. I trimmed off the ends at an angle and then attached it to the center of my house. Now that it's complete, it makes a really cute piece of fall decor. Here we are at the end of the video, and I really hope you had fun crafting the fall wagon, the sunflower and pumpkin wreath, along with the Hello Autumn house. Please be sure to check out my crafty friends on the playlist, and if you're new to my channel and you're thinking, hey, I'd like to come back and hang out with her again, don't forget to click that little red subscribe button below. I hope you all have an amazing and safe day, and I will see you soon. Bye, everybody!